Okay, we're at 6 o'clock right now, and before we start, I'd like to give the land acknowledgement. I am honored to give the land acknowledgement on behalf of CreateTO and the City of Toronto because it is one of the important ways to pay proper respect as allies and supporters to Indigenous people on Turtle Island. This site, being a part of Toronto, is covered by Treaty 13 signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. This is the traditional territory of many First Nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Chippewa, the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And of course, we know now that Toronto is a home to many diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We offer this land acknowledgement because it is a good way to remember and be mindful of all the treaties that exist right now and of all the people who lived long before us on this land. With that, I want to encourage you to learn more about Indigenous history and Indigenous peoples wherever you're tuning into this meeting from. Thank you. And to kick us off, I'd like to pass it on to Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. And I'm happy to be part of this meeting to learn about what the City of Toronto is proposing for 158 Borough Drive. This is a City of Toronto Housing Now and CreateTO project. I must add that it had always been my understanding and that of the former councillor, the Bearmaker, that something would be developed at this site would be consistent with respect to what we have in Scarborough Centre now. However, the city has the Housing Now plan and policy, which basically advance how city assets are utilized and what the purpose of those assets are utilized for. In this particular case, this particular site is designated by the city to be used for the Housing Now program, which would be to create an opportunity where affordable housing are developed in the area to assist people who are, you know, frontline workers, police officers, and others, and so on, who are having a hard time trying to find affordable rental property in the City of Toronto because of the very nature of the city's economic development and expenditure and expense that exists for properties as such. I, along with all of you, and I again just welcome everyone who is part of this meeting. I'm here to learn what the city's and CreateTO's plans are for this site. I do want to ensure that the members of the community will be afforded the opportunity to provide input in terms of what happens on this side, how it happens, as well as to hear from members of the community in terms of what their views are and how they see things developing and what are their concerns about the potential impact. There's no doubt we have a proud area, an area that is going to see massive transformation and so on. And clearly we have to create opportunities where all people who want to have a place can have a place, an affordable place, and so on. We're focusing on transit development. We're looking at an overview in terms of overhaul, in terms of the precinct plan that I'm sure Kelly Dines may mention, our planner on this file may mention a little bit later on. But it's really important to hear from members of the community in terms of what your views are, your thoughts, and how we go about transforming this site. As I said, the city hasn't consulted with me. I'm learning, just like you, members of the public, from the city and the city's team as to what is being proposed here. That we have had obviously some conversation in meetings, and there had been some sort of rendering in potentially in terms of what is going to happen here. The question is what's been rendered and whether or not that is actually going to be what happens going forward. In any event, I'm here to learn, as I said, and I'm looking forward to hearing your views and looking forward to help on behalf of the community in terms of ensuring that our voices are heard by CreateTO and the City of Toronto as it embarks on its Housing Now program to create more affordable housing in the community. Thank you very much, Yulia, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So very quick introduction. My name is Yulia Pak. I'm part of the third-party facilitation team retained to support this engagement process on Housing Now sites across the city. You may remember my colleague Ian Malczewski, who helped facilitate the discussion back in April, the first round, and I'm here with my colleague Matthew. So very quickly, our team does not work on any private projects. We only work with governments and on government projects like this one today. And it is not our role to advocate for any particular outcome. Rather, we're here as process stewards. We will help facilitate the discussion, take lots of notes, make sure that what we capture is documented accurately and then publicly available on the project website in the weeks to come after the meeting. With that being said, I'd like to introduce the project team that we have with us today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out your names, guys, and you just maybe wave so people can see who you are. So we have Nima Kia from CreateTO. From City Planning, we have Annalise Zunena and Kelly Dines. From Diamond Schmidt Architects, we have Michael Leckman. And you know, of course, my colleague Matthew, as I mentioned. Thanks. In terms of the agenda for today, we have just under 2 hours together. And what we're planning to do is to have a presentation to brief you on the updates to this site development. It will take us about 30 minutes or so to go through the presentation. During the presentation, you will not be able to answer any questions, but write them down, because right after the presentation and for the remainder of the time that we have together, we will have facilitated discussion and a Q&A session. We have, beyond the people you see on the screen, a lot more of the members of the project team who will be here as resources to answer as many questions from you as we can get. There are multiple ways to participate, and it's really important to note right now. So if for some reason we have about 76 attendees right now, you will not be able to ask your question. Don't worry. As of tomorrow, the project website will have a feedback form available to you through which you can share more of your questions and feedback with us. It will be available until August 13th. You can also always get in touch with Kelly Dines, who is the community planner, and she will also share the feedback with the rest of the team with us. If you know someone who is not able to participate online, no problem, give us a call. The phone number is also available on the project website. You should also receive it in the mail, in a flyer in the mail if you live within 300 meters of the site. We can send out a hard copy of the meeting materials to you and a feedback form which you can fill out and send back to us. All of it will be part of the public report that we will be working on and will be available on the project website again. In terms of technology, one last thing, right after the presentation is done, all of you will be promoted to the panelist status, which means you will be in charge of your own technology. You will be able to control your camera and your mic. So if you want to ask a question, just unmute yourself or raise your hand, although there are multiple ways to raise your hands, which we will cover right closer to the session. And one last thing, this session is being recorded, both the presentation part and the part about where we share our comments and ask questions and provide answers. And that recording will be available publicly on the project website as well. And I think that's it from me. So with that, I think we can jump right into the presentation.
Thank you very much, Julia. So as Julia mentioned, my name is Annalise Zunena and I'm with the City of Toronto. And tonight we will be resharing a little bit about what the Housing Now initiative is and what it means for the City of Toronto and this area of Scarborough Centre in particular. We'll talk about the plan for Borough Drive that's emerging tonight. and the context and planning framework that provides us with the authority and ability to propose a building that you'll be looking at this evening. You saw a previous development proposal in April of 2021, and tonight we will share with you the revised development proposal, and then we'll talk about next steps in the project. A little bit about Housing Now. Housing Now is a citywide program with 17 sites across the city of Toronto, and they vary considerably in size and complexity. We have some sites that are entire new communities with new public roads and parks, and we have sites like this location at 158 Borough Drive, which is a single address in a community where we seek to bring forward a development concept that supports the complete community, especially where transit is accessible. This image that you see on the screen reflects the range and the housing spectrum across the city of Toronto. So it ranges from emergency shelters all the way to home ownership. And each of these types of housing serves a certain need for one of our neighbors that lives in Toronto with us. The parts of the drawing that are shown in color, the red, the purple, and the blue, represent the type of housing that is provided through the Housing Now program. It includes affordable rental housing, which is housing provided by a private housing provider or a nonprofit with a contract with the City of Toronto to provide housing at affordable rents, market rental housing, and then also where sites are large enough, like those I mentioned with new public streets and larger buildings, we offer the opportunity for market homeownership to support the program. Deputy Mayor Thompson talked about frontline workers and how they are facing significant challenges with regard to affording high quality housing in the city of Toronto. So this image shows some of those people, and including a retired person, of course, who are critical to the fabric of the city of Toronto, the average annual income for these individuals, and the impact of the cost of housing in the city of Toronto, and what that means for the percentage of their income that they're paying towards finding good housing for themselves and their households. So we see early childhood educators, construction laborers, and a practical nurse. And we know that these are individuals who have got us through the pandemic and continue to be putting themselves in the front lines. And these are the same people who are facing challenges with housing affordability, despite the fact that they hold down critical jobs to make our economy work. And a little bit about the process at 158 Borough Drive. So what this image shows is 4 arrows that show the different steps in the process from conceiving of an initial development concept all the way to giving people keys to their new units. Right now we are in stage 2, the yellow stage, where we are looking at a development concept that is being refined to the point where we feel comfortable to bring it forward for the city-initiated official plan amendment and rezoning. That work will not conclude until we have completed ongoing consultation with the community and ongoing technical review, and you'll hear a little bit more about that tonight. Consultation will also continue in stage 4, and in stage 4 is when there will be a market partner here to construct and operate the building, and they will bring forward the detailed design, the design that you will ultimately see on the ground when you're walking in the community. And there will be opportunities to engage in consultation at that stage regarding the types of materials and the treatments in the public realm that you will be able to touch and sit on as members of the community. Our overall project timeline is shown here on the screen. So we are in the yellow-orange box. That means that we have gone through selecting a consultant team, and we have a number of members of that consultant team with us tonight: Diamond Schmidt Architects, the planning partnership with the landscape design, BA Transportation Solutions. We have shared with the community the first concept that went to the city's design review panel, as well as was shared with the public in the consultation on April 19th. CreateTO made a submission on behalf of the City of Toronto at the end of June, which included the technical reports that support the concept. These reports are still being reviewed and refined, and that's why it's so beneficial to also meet with the community at this time, so your input can continue to be considered as the final materials are prepared. Those will be reflected in the second rezoning submission that will be coming forward in at the end of the summer or early September. And we are aiming at this point to be bringing forward a zoning bylaw and official plan amendment towards the end of the year, and you'll be continue to be updated on that timeline. So as we're looking at the revisions to the design that you will see this evening, I hope that you take some time to think about what you're going to see on the slide here. And that is all the different inputs that have an impact on taking a development proposal from a first idea to a revised development proposal that you'll be seeing here tonight. We certainly heard a lot from the local community, and my colleague Kelly Dines will speak a little bit about what we have heard and how that may have been accommodated through the revisions to the design. But we also have to think about a number of other elements, and chief among them is the fact that City Council has directed that this site, as Deputy Mayor Thompson noted, would be a location for one of the Housing Now programs. So, and the serious need for new affordable housing across the City of Toronto. Planning policy is critical because we know that this is an area that is designed for high intensity residential development, and that is what you'll see this evening, as well as the ongoing input from city commenting agencies related to matters that support the technical feasibility of this project. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Kelly Dines now.
Great, thanks, Annalie. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the planning and context for 158 Borough Drive. So the reason we have some applications before us is twofold. First is the official plan amendment, which requires parkland dedication to be consistent with the citywide requirements at the time of approval. And the second reason is the zoning bylaw amendment. Currently, the proposed use is permitted in the zone city center residential, and it permits all types of dwelling units, day nurseries, and private daycares. The amendment is to remove the holding provision from the subject lands, as well as to establish appropriate performance standards to guide development. That includes height, density, massing, setbacks and stepbacks, as well as vehicular and bicycle parking rates, amenity spaces, amongst other provisions. So as Annalie alluded to, back in April, when we had our first community consultation meeting, we heard a number of comments from you, and we continued to receive feedback after that meeting. Under support, we heard many of you indicate your support for Housing Now and the city's action on affordable housing in the City of Toronto. We heard some of you express interest in living here eventually. We also heard support for daycare, which is much needed in Scarborough Centre as well as across the city. We also heard a desire for public open space and improvements to pedestrian connectivity, experience, and safety for this area. Some of the concerns we heard, why here? As well as, is there a potential that our property values might be decreased? Is there going to be any impacts to community safety? There was also concern expressed about whether or not this would put a strain on existing infrastructure, our schools, water, sewers, as well as whether or not the existing traffic might become worse with a new development proposed. The proposed height and density was also expressed as a concern, as well as many of you noted that at various times throughout the day and the year, you take advantage of the parking lot, especially now that there's very few cars parked there, to use it as an informal gathering space. So 158 Borough Drive is located in Scarborough Centre. Scarborough Centre is one of 4 centres in the City of Toronto, and it's also identified as an urban growth centre in our growth plan. It's well served by transit, and specifically TTC's Line 3, as well as local and interregional bus transit. As illustrated on this map, the majority of Scarborough Centre is located in a mixed-use area, which provides for a balance of and mix of uses, open spaces, along with new jobs and homes. There's also lands designated parks and natural areas. The Scarborough Civic Centre is Scarborough Centre's signature building and one of the city's most notable works of modern architecture. It was designed by Raymond Moriyama in 1973. Views to this iconic building are identified on map 7A in our official plan. And you can see in the middle slide that the protected view is taken from the northeast steps of Albert Campbell Square. "158 Borough Drive is outlined in yellow on this map, just close to the southern boundary of the center. For those of you that live here, you know that Scarborough Centre is very large, 180 hectares. It's comprised of a growing residential community, employment uses, a regional mall, municipal and federal government office buildings, and a variety of recreational, educational, and community services. It's anticipated that the next wave of development will be connected to the Scarborough subway extension and Housing Now. So as Deputy Mayor Thompson mentioned, city planning staff are currently undertaking a planning study to refine and update the Scarborough Centre secondary plan. The intention of the study is to develop a robust planning framework and support the vision for Scarborough Centre as a vibrant, sustainable, and resilient transit-oriented community. The study will provide recommendations on matters such as built form, height, the public realm, community services and facilities, and infrastructure. The study is currently wrapping up phase 2, and it's expected to be complete in the first half of 2022. The City of Toronto utilizes a number of design guidelines to inform the review of all development applications. A variety of guidelines, including these, will be referred to in preparing a development concept that supports the quality of this city asset. So I'm sure most of you are fairly familiar with the subject site in the neighboring context, but for those of you that might not, I'm just going to give a quick overview. So in this slide, the site is outlined in a red box this time, and it's immediately east of the Scarborough Civic Centre building. There are a number of vibrant green spaces supporting the immediate area around the site, including Frank Faubert Woodlot, the Hand of God Dog Park and Dog Off-Leash Park, and the recently reconfigured Civic Green and Albert Campbell Park. There are also a collection of residential towers in the area, as well as office buildings such as the Scarborough Civic Centre, the Bell Building, the Federal Building, and the Kevrick office towers. There are some small retail operations in the base of some of the condos, with the Scarborough Town Centre Regional Mall being the largest retail element in the centre. The Bendel residential neighborhood is located just south of Ellesmere, and TTC's Line 3 traverses the centre with 2 stations at Scarborough Centre and McCowan. The hatched line on the top corner of your screen identifies the future Scarborough subway extension and station and bus terminal. So the site is roughly 6,200 square meters, with about 82 meters of frontage on Borough Drive and 61 meters on Town Centre Court. The site currently operates as a staff parking lot for employees of the Scarborough Civic Centre, but it's also used as an important mid-block connection from both Town Centre Court and Borough Drive to access the Scarborough Civic Centre, the library, Albert Campbell Square, and beyond. To the north of the site are the Monarch residential buildings. East is the Chentro condos at 1 and 11 Town Centre Court. To the west is the library and the Scarborough Civic Centre building, and south is Borough Drive and Frank Faubert Woodlot. This is a view looking from Borough Drive north at the subject site, where you see a gentle grade change. This next slide is a view looking west from Town Centre Court, and you can see the Monarch buildings just to the right of your screen to the north and Borough Drive to the south. So this last slide of mine is an aerial view of the site and the immediate surrounding area. The site's identified in a red star. The forecourt, highlighted in blue here, is used primarily as a vehicular drop-off for visitors and TTC's Wheel-Trans to the Civic Center and Public Health Building. It also provides vehicular access for city staff to the existing parking garage and access for garbage and loading to the Scarborough Civic Center. The green highlighted area is the existing north-south pedestrian connection that provides access from Borough Drive into Albert Campbell Square and beyond. And the orange highlighted area represents Borough Drive and TTC's streetscapes. These three areas correspond to some of the areas we received feedback on from you at our previous meeting. And you will hear more about the changes and improvements to these important public realm elements in Michael's presentation coming up next. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. So since we last met with the community in April, there have been some refinements to the development proposal in response to the feedback we received. These design refinements will be further presented by the project architect, Michael Leckman, who has joined us this evening. We have also considered a number of policy and technical requirements in the proposal, which is currently under review by City Planning. The overall development statistics are shown on the current slide and include a modest increase in the total unit count from 602 units to 645 units. This proposed increase will enable the delivery of more affordable housing units as part of the city's 10-year housing action plan. The proposal continues to include substantial enhancements of the public realm, as well as some refinements to the proposed daycare facility on the ground level. With that, I will now turn the presentation over to Michael Leckman, who will provide an overview of the design refinements before we discuss next steps.
Thank you, Nima. And yes, I'm Michael Leckman from Diamond Schmidt. I want to introduce the project first by indicating that one of the priorities of the project is to make sure that it was a part of a rejuvenated and enhanced public realm. And what you're going to see in the next few slides is how the streetscapes and edges of the project are envisioned. This view is a view of Borough Drive, and it illustrates the high quality public realm being designed immediately on Borough Drive. And it is, this is a new bicycle lane imagined, increased sidewalk widths, as well as you can see in the middle of the slide, you can see a south-facing publicly accessible courtyard. You're now on Borough Drive and you're looking north. And what you're actually looking up is quite a radical transformation, which is that there's a promenade which will connect you from Borough Drive to Albert Campbell Square. And unlike the current condition, which has steep ramps and stairs, this will be a single, continuous, smooth, sloping surface, gently sloping surface, which will get you from Borough Drive to Albert Campbell Square. And it shows that gently sloping surface from the Civic Center forecourt. Borough Drive is on the right, Albert Campbell Square would be on the left, and you can see how instead of the ramps and stairs that are the current condition, this is a fully accessible new public route from north to south. On the north edge of the site is a laneway, and it is going to be something that is going to have shared use. It will have a daycare drop-off. It will have occasional loading activities, but mostly it will have the ability to be an informal use space that connects from Town Center Court to Albert Campbell Square. And what that means is that it is it's a place for relaxed use where it'll be it'll have a name which is called a woonerf, and that describes this overlaying of different activities where roads and pedestrian activities and landscape all share a common space. You've seen this slide just a few minutes ago from Kelly. Here it is again, identifying all the relative heights on the existing site and the proposal. And what this shows is that the new proposal is generally in keeping with and echoing the heights of the buildings on the east side of the site and the heights of the buildings stepping down toward the Scarborough Civic Centre on the west side of the site. And as Neela mentioned, the proposal saw an opportunity to identify additional heights and what that meant was an opportunity to optimize the use of the site so that the city was getting the best benefit from this site as a housing now site. I'm going to identify some of the adjustments made since last time. As we wanted to recognize some of the comments that were made. So first of all, acknowledging that the spacing between the buildings is governed by something called the Tall Buildings Guidelines. And Tall Buildings Guideline recommend a minimum of 25 meters between any two buildings. And as you can see from this diagram, the orange lines with the numbers above them, all of the building separation distances are more than 25 meters. That's important. The next is to look at the dimensions that are going so diagonally from left to right. Those that say 39.1 and 52.7, those far exceed the 25-meter separation distance. And one of the advantages of far exceeding the 25-meter separation distance in those locations is it permits views between the towers that of the landscape, the Frankfurt Air Woodlot and beyond, for the existing occupants in the homes to the north. And we think this is a significant observation about the disposition of the buildings on the site in recognition of existing view and access to light. The design also closely follows the tall building guideline, in particular in the way that tall buildings are meant to be associated with lower scale elements closer to the ground. And what you see outlined in orange is something that did considerably change since the last version, which is that that lower element, the podium version, was significantly widened to enhance the eye level experience at the street and consequently enhance the public realm. Accessibility was also addressed and clarified. In this diagram, the connection from Civic Centre forecourt, from Town Centre Court to Civic Centre forecourt was improved and clarified so that there was a continuous level connecting you in the east-west direction, and also ensuring that that flow from Borough Drive to Albert Campbell Square had a gentle enough slope to it. So there was improvements to the flow and accessibility in a north-south and an east-west direction. Another one of particular interest was acknowledging that there are a number of people who use the lower level of the forecourt to get to Toronto Public Health. And so a dedicated sidewalk was created along that entry road to the forecourt, as well as a pedestrian crosswalk at the north edge, so that there was a safe and secure and accessible route from Borough Drive all the way to the Toronto Public Health office. Next, the clarity of the bicycle lane, ensuring that the crosswalks, the bicycle lane, and the turning movement of vehicles were all coordinated so that there was improved safety and improved understanding of all the activities at the street corner into the forecourt in a way that recognizes all that we've learned about how bicycles, pedestrians, and cars come together. And next, this is a close-up of the ground floor. And as you know, there's a daycare center. And we had been previously showing an entrance on the Woodruff side, that's the laneway side of the development. And what was discussed was the value of bringing an entrance to the Borough Drive side. So now there are two entrances to the daycare, one of them associated with the drop-off on the north side, and another one associated with the civic address, something that you would see as you drive by on Borough Drive, and you'd be able to see that the daycare center is there. And then internally, those entrances are coordinated. So with that, I thank you, that is the summary of the refinements that have been made since the last time you saw the punch. Pass it on to the next group.
Thanks so much, Michael. So the next slide shows where we are within the project review timeline. Following this evening's meeting, we will continue to collect feedback from the community until August 13th to help inform a revised submission. It is anticipated that a final recommendations report will be considered by City Council by end of year, after which a market offering will be issued in 2022. As mentioned, in terms of next steps, we will be further revising the development concept to address both community and staff feedback over the course of the summer. We will also be working closely with Deputy Mayor Thompson to establish a local working group that will play an advisory role in helping to inform the development concept moving forward. Every participant who registered to attend this event will be receiving an invitation letter to join this 15-member working group. Further details on the role of the working group will be provided to all registered participants. There are 3 simple ways to ensure that you stay updated on the development proposal. At the conclusion of this meeting, you should receive a prompt to register to receive updates directly. You can also visit the Housing Now project website at createto.ca/housingnow. Finally, you can also email your local planner directly. Kelly Dines' contact details are shown on the current slide. And with that, I'll turn the presentation back to you, Leah.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. And before we jump into the discussion, I just want to remind people that there are many different ways to participate today in this meeting, and particularly about how to raise hand. If you're participating online, it varies a little bit whether you're participating from a mobile phone, from a tablet, or on your computer, but look for a little hand icon somewhere either at the bottom of your screen, or if you're on a mobile device somewhere on the top corner, top right. You can raise your hand like this, and this is excellent. I see some people are already starting to raise their hands. And for those of you on the phone, you can press *3 to raise your hand on the phone. And what is going to happen, we're going to come to you. We are going to unmute you. You will hear the message that you are now unmuted, and then go ahead and share your feedback with us. I am going to keep the speakers list and announce it in advance, just so that people know we have to share space with everyone and time, and who goes after whom. Again, you will be in charge of your technology, so it means that you can put yourself on camera. You don't have to if you don't want to, and you can unmute yourselves. And finally, if you have trouble raising hand virtually, that's no problem. Turn on your camera if you're able to, and just raise your hand up like this, old school, and I'll keep the list and put you in a queue. I think that's it from me. And before we go into the discussions, and what we want to know from you is there something that really is compelling to you, something that you really like from what you've seen? Do you have any suggested refinements to what you've seen, because the process is moving forward and your feedback is valuable? And any other suggestions or advice that you'd like to share with the team, we're also happy to hear. Okay, so we have 102 attendees right now, and I see about 8 people have raised their hands. We start with WLOU, someone who's called WLOU, and then we're going to go to someone under the name of VB, and then Kevin. Okay, WLOU. WLOU.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, so I'm wondering, would it help if we protest outside City Hall to stop this?
Okay, thanks for your question. Would it help if they protest? And I
Ask
guess
another question. Can I ask another question?
yes, go ahead.
The city needs more drug addiction centers, abortion clinics, food banks, and prisons. This would be the ideal place for it because we don't have it.
Okay, great.
It
Thank you.
would really benefit the country. It would be horrible for this area, but it would be wonderful for this country. So why not put it right here? Can we protest outside City Hall?
Thank you. I mean, thanks for your question, Lou. In all seriousness, there are two questions. One is, will the protest help? And I think what would be useful to know is, what is the mechanism to...
Okay, a third question. Why are the city councilors so stupid? I cannot figure it out.
Lou, I'm
Yes?
going to jump in right now.
Okay, please do.
Thank you for your three questions. Please, we do not want to use any language that promotes violence or harm to others.
I did not promote any violence. I'm just simply questioning the intelligence of the people behind this project.
Okay, so let us try to answer your questions, okay?
Okay, please do.
So three questions. First, will the protest help? And to that, I think it's a process question. If someone can speak to what are some of the ways to formally launch complain about this, and what, if I understand correctly, what Lou would like to see happening is actually more community services related to criminal justice that are much needed to be provided here.
Yes, right next to us. We want a prison and we want a drug addiction center and a food bank. This is what we need right here.
Great, thank you, Lou. And the third, maybe can you speak generally about the decision-making process in the council and how the decisions are being made? Okay, Lou, good?
Can I speak to that? No, that's my question. So maybe you can answer.
Yeah, Lou, let us answer your questions, okay? Because
go ahead.
I have a ton of people in the line and I want to make sure we get through as many of them as possible.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, who wants to answer the first question? The protest, and what are some of the other ways to formally launch a complaint about this and see something else happening on the side? Annalie, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. This is a public process, and you can continue to provide feedback on the proposal to Kelly Dine directly, or if you feel the need to speak in front of members of City Council when this project is in front of the Planning and Housing Committee, you can register to depute at that meeting and state the reasons that you want to protest the development. I'm hazarding, and maybe Deputy Mayor Thompson wants to speak more directly to it. If not, that's your answer, Mr. Liu.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Add that anyone has a right in a democratic society to lawfully and peacefully protest any development or any matter that's actually in front of City Council. I think it would be really wise to actually listen to what is actually being conveyed, whether or not you like what is being proposed or not. This is an opportunity for you to intelligently offer thoughts and ideas in terms of a housing now project. I'm not aware that the city needs a prison in this area, nor am I aware that there's a need for drug addiction facilities in this area. What I'm aware of is that there's a need for development, and this site was always planned as a developable site. This site has been owned by the city. The city has chosen as part of its Housing Now process to actually retain this and to develop it based on the need that exists in the city. So this is part of a program, and I think that for those who wish to affect an outcome that's in interest, should really offer constructive input in order to allow this process to unfold.
Okay, thank you. And the second two questions, I think I'll just combine them together. Like, can someone on the team speak about the decision-making process broadly, and why is it that you decided to dedicate this site for affordable housing and not, for example, for any drug addiction services or a prison or a food bank as suggested?
I can answer that.
Okay, yeah, great.
So the site actually, as I had previously mentioned, is in Scarborough Centre, and it is currently zoned city center residential. as well as city center office. So the uses permitted on this site are in fact residential and office type uses. A use such as a prison or such would not be permitted under the current zoning bylaw. And as a center, we encourage a mix of permitted uses to ensure that our center grows and evolves as not only a complete community, but one that can accommodate a lot of growth in both employment and housing.
Okay, thank you. Lou?
Yes.
Here are your answers. Would you like to share some last words before I move on?
Not really, but I think everybody on the panel the panel knows that I was, of course, being sarcastic about adding those undesirable elements to our neighborhood, and we do not wish to have these rental units next to us. And from what the deputy mayor, I guess, Mr. Thompson is. From what he's saying, and the other two speakers as well, I can see that protesting will not help, because this is decision made by the city. The residents around here have absolutely no say. It is not democratic. You've been elected, but you are not representing us properly.
Okay, Lou, thank you. I
You're
hear you, and it's my job and Matthew's job to take down the notes. So I hear you loud and clear. You made your point. You don't want to see the development here, and you know the fact that the program, the Housing Now program, has been decided on a citywide basis. You feel like your voice hasn't been part of that. Okay, let's move on. A user under the name VB. VB, and I believe VB is on the phone.
Is that Eva you said?
It's VB.
That's me.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, I'll get off.
Okay. So I would voice the same concern which I think Juan before me has voiced. So unilaterally, city cannot take a decision in such a good neighborhood. Of course, these are high-paying properties. We bought the property at a high price. What would you feel if the same thing, Michael Thompson, if someone built a property in front of your house, a community building or a drug center in front of your house? Wouldn't you protest? How can you take an unanimous decision without consulting any of the residents and building something over there? You were elected to represent the community, not to do housing and all these things and childcare benefits and all these things. Enough of it. We are fed up of this now. Of hearing every government doing the same thing, and tax-paying people who are paying the money, the real money, okay, they don't have any say, they don't have any benefits, nothing like that. How can you unilaterally take a decision that this is a housing? It was 20 years back. Think of it, if someone has a decent bit of brains in their head, they would think that these are 3 or 4 beautiful buildings in Scarborough. What about bringing something as stupid as a housing center over there, and make everyone sit down over there together, and all these people and the children playing around and everything, and these people, the anti-socials, are always around wherever you create community housing. There is plenty of space in Whitby, whole of Canada. 35 million people only in Canada. The rest of Canada is underpopulated. Tell John Tory to go and build his city wherever he wants and take all the homeless people. Tell the minister, what is this, Ahmed Hussain, tell him to take all his Somali people over there. And
VB, thank you. I think we hear your message loud and clear. And I think what would be helpful right now is for the project team and Deputy Mayor, I know the question was addressed to you, to explain how the decision regarding the affordable housing is being made and why is it city-wide, and tell us more about how you think about that.
Sure. Let me take a stab at that, Yulia. Thank you, and thank you very much for the question and the input, sir. I must tell you that when I became the councillor of record in this area, I actually started to work with a developer to develop what was actually initially proposed for the site, which is consistent to what's there now. When I approached the city indicated that they actually had other plans, which is the Housing Now policy that they wanted to follow. We actually, myself and others, challenged the city at that. However, the city indicated that because it's their lands, and I don't work for the city, I work for the community, because it's their lands, they could actually do what they wish, which is a program that they had put in place, which is the Housing Now program. We actually had the developer who actually developed most of the buildings in this area had actually engaged in a process with the city to purchase the land and actually to build a parking facility for the city. The city has said no, they actually don't want that. They want something else, which is what is being proposed to you today. Let me also be very clear. It's really important that people understand what is actually being proposed here. No one is talking about the type of development that has been expressed. People talk about bringing homeless people into the neighborhood. That's not actually what is actually being proposed. This is not a shelter. This is a purpose-built, a type of development that will be focusing on rental with folks who are professionals, like many of you who reside in the area. So it is my intention to work with members of the community to ensure that in as much as the city has a right to develop its own site, to ensure that the concerns that you have and the type of development that you'd like to see here that in this area reflects your objectives and goals. It may not be condominium as is in the area, but it is something else that actually is consistent with respect to the development of Scarborough Centre. So it's a process that we have to work through. I appreciate the suggestions that people are offering and so on, but what I think we have to do, irrespective of whether or not you oppose what's being proposed, what we have to do is reflect on what and how we can actually create a synergy between the city's interest and that of the community's interest. And that's what we're trying to work through. That's why I've suggested to the city that the formation of a working group consisting of members of the community so that your voices can be heard as part of this process. I'll turn it back over to you, Yulia.
Great.
Yeah, just I have one more point. So even if the city won't listen to us, basically, the city will do whatever they want. And all the residents over here who have bought these properties, I don't know whether the city will help if the price of property goes down as a result of his condo, the rental building coming up. So this is not a democratic process at all.
Mr. VB, I'm going to interject. This is a building, you live in the Scarborough Centre. This is an area with billions of dollars of new transit investment that is coming. And there is not a trend in property values next to new purpose-built rental buildings that we have seen anywhere in the city, especially in areas where there is enhanced investment in new transit lines. So I'm just going to say that again. This is a community that is going to benefit from significant investment in a range of things that support the broader community, including adding neighbors who need to find housing that they need so that they can continue to work in this city and support the people who go food shopping, go to the dentist, take their kids to daycare. So I would just like to emphasize we have not seen a reduction in property values, and the city is not focused on that. We are focused on increasing the supply of new affordable housing in developments that are beautiful and that support the community.
But you just said there that the city's not concerned with the property values there. For anybody who's a south facing, if you've got a 47-foot building there, you're going to have a extremely adverse, negative effect value of that condo. So I guess the question would be, is the city then prepared to compensate those people? Secondarily, you've got an area with a significant concentration of people already there. There's going to be huge congestion issues there. Proposing a 47-story building there with whether they be low income or whatever, professionals, however you want to classify them. There's going to be a a big issue with which is already an issue in this area with congestion, and you're only going to exacerbate that.
Sir, thanks for sharing your feedback, but I actually have a speakers list, and we've heard the two.
I apologize for the interruption there, but I have to accept.
No problem, no problem. We'll get to you. So I have the two concerns that you just mentioned. One is that if the property value does tank, will there be any compensation? And two, what about the congestion? So I'm gonna keep them on the record, but just to remind everyone, the next one is Kevin, and then I have Rakib, and I have Melissa. Okay, so who wants to answer the questions that we just received? And I'll come to you, Kevin, right after. Annalie, will there be any compensation?
Okay, yeah, sorry, sure. No, there will not be compensation related to property values if there's a new high quality development replacing a parking lot. And secondly, we have Mark Jameson here from the BA Group, who's our transportation consultant. I don't know if there's a specific question other than will there be congestion? But Mark, I can pass it over to you for a little bit more detail on the way you assess the increased number of vehicle trips.
Sure. So my name is Mark Jameson. I'm with a company called BA Consulting. I would just say that part of our role is to do a transportation study of extra traffic, car traffic, pedestrian traffic, transit traffic that's going to be generated, and adds that to the road network to try to demonstrate what the impacts are. That transportation study is submitted as part of the application. It's available online on the city's development application if you want to take a look at it. The focus of the study looks at traffic during the peak hours. We look at it in a non-COVID, traffic condition. So this looks at what happens, what would we expect to happen when things get back to normal, and determine that the traffic can be accommodated in the neighborhood. And we looked at all the permutations of added growth and what's going to change in the area. There are some recommendations in our study about how you would accommodate that, but from a vehicular transportation perspective, the conclusion is that it can be accommodated. And I would note that the part of the way that this works is the majority of peak hour traffic when roads are busy are in the studies show, and what we expect is that a lot of it will be transit, because this is a site that is in close proximity to the future Scarborough subway extension and the current Scarborough Rapid Transit. So it's a very transit-friendly site. A lot of those trips aren't driving, they're taking transit.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Thank you for this meeting. And my name's Kevinrupa Singh. I'm a resident of Scarborough. I'm not too far away from Scarborough Town Centre. In fact, I recently got my second dose at Scarborough Town Centre. It was a great experience, so I encourage you all to do the same if you haven't. I want to commend everyone on the team for bringing this project forward, and I'm glad to see it and have a conversation about it. I have, I think, 3 what I believe to be constructive suggestions to incorporate into the project. But if I could just clarify, isn't there a policy about city meetings, in terms of respectful behavior? I'm a little shocked by some of the remarks already. They are rather insulting and discriminatory, not even to poverty, but even for people median income. For me, I'm a professional, and my generation cannot afford to live in Toronto. Housing is so important. There are vibrant, talented people who are forced to leave the city because we don't have a place to live. And the nurses and the teachers and all the other people who provide services that all of us rely on, we can't live here. So if anyone on this call has young children or is planning on having children, Toronto for them will not be affordable, because it already is not for people in my generation. So, but yeah, I would appreciate if everyone could continue to be respectful as we work towards more housing. The 3 things I wanted to suggest. So one is around cycling. So as you mentioned earlier, Scarborough Town Centre is huge. There's obviously concerns about traffic, and of course, if it's a really car-oriented development, then that'll be a challenge. But I think for a lot of people, local errands could be done by cycling, or commutes to Centennial College or to whatever it might be. I appreciate the work on progress on Borough, in terms of making it safer for people to cycle. But I think it also makes a lot of sense to look at a street like Progress, which goes right through Scarborough Town Centre, connects to some major destinations. And it's one of the few safe crossings of the 401, relatively safe crossings of the 401. So that if I was to live here, I would want to use Progress Avenue if I was going to bike for day-to-day trips. So that's one on cycling. Another is on, I guess, and heating. And so, you know, in 20 to 30 years, the summers that like my grandchildren may experience in Toronto are going to be 45-degree summers. So I'm glad this is mostly a transit-oriented development, but I think there needs to be more on trees to help with cooling. There's a lot of pavement in the area. I mean, that leads to flooding and more heating and stuff. Like it does need to be, I guess, more focus on things like climate and resilience in the development. And that leads to my last one on parking. I think I saw somewhere there's like 250 or something parking spots. And while I appreciate you know, the balance between parking, car parking and bike parking, car parking spots cost like 50 to 100,000 per spot if it's underground, right? And I think that's a real opportunity to make, again, the housing, which is the primary thing here, more affordable. And as you pointed out, there's a lot of transit investment that's coming. I just don't see people who need to rely on a car choosing to live here in that great of a quantity, especially over the lifetime of the project. So yeah, some more cycling, safe cycling, more impact or more attention to climate and cooling, and perhaps less emphasis on parking. Is that clear? Can I clarify anything?
Right. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your suggestions.
Kevin, even I thanks for your suggestions also, being a resident here in Scarborough area for last 20 years.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We have a speakers list. I'm gonna try to get to you, okay? Kevin, thanks so much for your suggestions. We got the 3 of them, and yes, thank you for starting your comments this way. It is really important for all of us to be respectful to each other. We all made time to be here, and it's great that people come here to participate because they all care. So please, everybody, let's try to keep and being respectful, because we will not and we cannot tolerate anything that is harmful or violent. So thank you for that, for this reminder, Kevin. Okay, I have Rakib next.
Actually, Yulia.
Hi
Yes,
there.
Kelly Dines here. If I could just for 30 seconds respond to Kevin's comments. Kevin, as I had mentioned in some of my slides, we are undertaking what is called our Scarborough Centre. There is a website, so if you wish to reach out to me afterwards, I can send you the link. And we are just completing a background report that'll complete phase 2. And you really hit on a number of key parts and strategies that we are considering in our study. So we are looking at the cycling infrastructure across Scarborough Centre and how it can connect beyond. We need to work with our other commenting divisions and agencies to find a way to implement these cycling lanes in a sort of a rational and coherent manner and ensure that there's funding available. And the second point you made with respect to green infrastructure and the increase in heat and flooding, that is definitely something that our study will be looking at and making recommendations for going ahead with future development to ensure that all future development sites include that type of infrastructure. So thank you.
Gotcha. Thanks for that, Kelly. And thanks again to the project team and the counselor for bringing it forward.
Good. Rakib, over to you, and thank you for your patience.
Okay. All right. So I have made a list of the things that I want to talk about. First, let me introduce myself. I live at 50 Town Centre Court. I am a board member at 50 Town Centre Court since the beginning of the building, 7.5 years. I believe we have board members right in this meeting right now from 60 Town Centre Court, 70 Town Centre Court, multiple board members of 50, 60, 70. All of us are here. One might have had the chance to talk. I hope more get the chance to talk. We board members, just 50, 60, 70 combined, represent 1,100 units right next to this building. So when we say something, we represent not only our views, we represent the majority view of 1,100 owners next to the neighborhood, not one owner. That's the first thing. And yes, I agree that we should all be cordial. We should not attack people and so on and so forth. I fully agree on that. But I also understand the frustration from which some of the initial speakers had spoken. But having said that, I will go to some of my points. Sorry, I may move away from my screen because I am looking at my computer and because I wrote down the points. First of all, this land has been in talks of what will happen to the land from before I bought this unit. And I have seen Michael Thompson even protesting against rental property on Toronto Star in the month of June. So Michael Thompson is with us, not against us. It's the Toronto City Council who is pushing it through. I know that it's on public records. It's on Toronto Star, right? Printed in June something of this year. And initially it was supposed to be a condo. And that condo deal, according to Toronto Star and according to Michael Thompson's own statements at Toronto Star, was 95% complete. There was a component of parking sharing deal that just didn't go through. That's why it didn't go to the condo builder. That's one thing. Second thing is they were planning or doing less rental, like 30% rental earlier. 30% affordable rental earlier. Now I'm reading in the public sites that they're planning on making it zero condo, 100% rental, 50% affordable. That's on the internet from CreateTO and Housing Now, which is even more concerning now. Second thing is affordable, whatever plan is given today, even before the thing is built, the story is changing every few months. The story, I don't know where it will end by the time it goes into December. If a non-ownership, non-unit ownership scenario is allowed to stay here, there is no guarantee that 5 years from now, City Council will say, hey, let's give it to TCHC. What do we do then? Because city owns it, can do whatever it wants with it, right? There is no guarantee on that. That's one thing. Next thing is security value. People have already talked about it. I've already talked about Michael Thompson himself is against it. He also said it today in the meeting. One of the plans that Mr. Thompson had, and I know this, and it's also written in Toronto Star in the June article, is to build a condo building with 100 affordable units in there that people will be able to own at a subsidized rate. So basically, like government would help in helping people own. We know this. Look at Housing Now is a new program. Look at TCHC. Anybody who gets into TCHC, I know this is not TCHC yet. There's no guarantee that it won't be in the future. But anyways, anybody who gets into TCHC, 95, 97% people just stay there and maintain their income in a way that they don't have to move out and it just stays there forever, right? Instead, if we can help people to own condos, right, that would be something much, much better. That was the original plan, right?
Rakib.
And I had the next, yes.
So how many more points do you have? I hear you loud and clear. We need to talk about rental versus ownership.
Yes, I have four last points. Like very quickly, I finish it on 30 seconds. Sorry about that. So I'll give you 1 minute. Imagine City Council proposing a Housing Now project next to the Rosedale station. Would it fly? What do you think? Do you think City Council will dare to even say that, hey, Rosedale station is next to Yonge and Bloor? It's a transit.
Well, there's one at Davisville station. I don't know if that's the same, but there's one right at Davisville station.
I know the Martin Street one. I know that. I just gave it Rosedale station as an example. You see the point I'm trying to make, right? See, the thing is, we have spent our lives, like, we are not rich people. We are not people who own 10 condos, right? We're not investors, foreign investors who own 15 condos, rent it out and do whatever they want, right? We are small people. We spent our entire life savings to buy one condo, right? And we walk around in the area with some confidence of safety, right? We are scared. Yes, there are components. There will be safeguards, some level of safeguards that I talked about being today, about some restrictions of who will get the rental and who will not. But if you start getting fearful of the place where you live, it is something that goes to the court beyond value and rental value and so on and so forth, right? And I have not heard a single person today who actually owns a unit in this area, 50, 60, 70 towns in the court, the Central Towers, I'm less linked there, and
Okay.
the two buildings next to the mall, who actually support this, right? I mean,
Rakib,
like
Rakib, I think
I hope you understand the human part of what I am saying. And I'm
yes,
representing 1,100 units here with the other
Rakib,
directors from 50, 60, and 70
thank you.
towns in the court.
Thank you for your comments. And it actually sounds like you might be interested in applying for the working group that is being developed right now, since you're speaking for so many condo residents in your area. But I think the two things, and maybe we'll start with one, is affordable ownership and affordable rental. What are you guys thinking for this site specifically? And then how does that connect to community safety, if at all, based on what you know? And what are some of the things that you're thinking about when it comes to community safety? Okay, Annalie, do you want to start?
Okay, I know the deputy mayor has some thoughts on affordable ownership as well. I noticed his eyebrows go up, so maybe the deputy mayor can start.
Okay, great.
Or
thank you. You know, I think, Mr. Khan, thank you very much. At least I'm happy somebody reads the papers and somebody understands what my position is. As I said at the beginning, this is a City of Toronto and CreateTO meeting. This is not my meeting. And at the outset, I had worked with the former councillor who had been working on this site with a developer, because we knew that this site would have always been developed. But the question is, how would it be developed? Regrettably, I was outvoted at council because city has a policy, which was to use their lands as they see fit. And so in as much as I won't rehash what I've said publicly about this site, because it would be my view that it would be developed in a way that creates home ownership, and that would incorporate some element of affordable housing as part of it. The city has chosen to go another route. So I'm not here to fight that, because it's not a battle that we're going to win. The question is, what do we do now, knowing the city's policies? And this is why I'm suggesting to members of the community, in as much as you may not be happy with respect to what's being proposed, you do have an opportunity to affect and have a greater sense of understanding as to what could happen here and to provide your input. I think it's really important to keep that in mind. And so this is the exercise I'd like to ensure that we go through, and to make sure that we offer our voices in terms of what needs to happen here. And so it's not a matter of rehashing what the past was. It's a question of how do we move forward in the future, because we know, and has been someone that said, well, you know, I can't, with respect to the views, whether or not it's this type of housing, the Housing Now program, or a condo, there would be some effect at this site because it was slated for development. And so I'll just leave it there for now, and just encourage everyone to kind of listen. But I'd also like, just before I leave it, if someone could explain the difference between low-income housing, affordable home ownership, and so on, to help to create a sense of balance, and then to speak to the issue around safety and security, which is, I hear from members of the community loud and clear in terms of as a concern. I'll just close it with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Annalie and Nima, do you guys want to take a stab at it?
On the topic of housing, we actually have Paul Fisher joining us from the city. Again, housing is a broad spectrum, and I think if Paul, if you're available, perhaps you can speak to the range of housing options and where housing now falls within that broader spectrum.
Sure, thanks. Just for everyone's clarification, I think there's a chart that shows the different levels, but the one most people are familiar with would be RGI housing. That one's based on people's income, and that one, those units are filled through the centralized wait list. That's predominantly for people at the lower end of market, or the lower income brackets. That's based on, it would be 30% of someone's income. The next band up would be affordable housing such as this. The requirements for this would be that you can't make more than 4 times the annualized rent. So in a 1 bedroom, which is the average market rent is $1,431 at this point. So you're looking at, off the top of my head, about $55,000 for a maximum income. And there are some eligibility rules based on what you require to be filling one of these units. And then the next step up, I think we were just talking about, was the affordable home ownership, and there are maximum income brackets for that as well. I'm not as familiar with that program, but sometimes those are repayable loans that the city would recoup some of the benefit from your increase in property, the increase in value of your property, that we would then put back into another program to help other people who might be interested. Does that provide the clarification, or is there any specific question?
Can you speak to a little bit about why affordable rental here as opposed to affordable ownership? Or maybe
on that topic again, it was a decision by council to pursue the Housing Now program. So that's what staff is working with. That's what we've been instructed by council to pursue. So the Housing Now program is founded on a target for minimum affordability rental housing. There's a minimum threshold of 33%. And with this particular project, we are targeting up to 50% affordable rental.
Good. Thank you. Okay.
There was one more question. There's one more question that Mr. Khan raised, and that was, how do we know that this building won't change in its nature in 5 years' time from a affordable rental to a rent geared to income building? Just for clarification, the developer who will sign a contract with the city will be signing a contract for 99 years. And so that will be a contract that will be honored. And that will fit into the fact that actually 47% of the residents in Scarborough Centre are renting. They may not be in purpose-built rental buildings. They may be down the hall from someone in their condominium corridor, but there is a high proportion of rental tenants in Scarborough Centre. So it will fit in with the broader housing spectrum in Scarborough Centre, and it will be a contract with a housing developer who will be selected based on their expertise and demonstrated experience in managing rental properties to provide a high quality and safe environment on the site at 158 Borough Drive.
Thank you, Annalie. Rakib, sorry, I keep muting you because there's background noise and it's a little bit disruptive.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so may I just, I'm guessing I have to add my concluding points here, right?
Very quickly, okay? Because we have a bunch of people on in the queue.
Yes. So I'll take less than a minute here. Just 2 points. First of all, something that Annalie brought up. Yes, majority of the people in the buildings around here are rentals, right? So they're condo owners who basically rent the units out. Now, there is a certain group of people who live in this area, right? I'm not going to differentiate based on income, but people who are a bit, how should I say, like, I haven't heard much troubles. Well, there are some troubles in this area, but the last 7.5 years, I haven't heard major troubles, except for some trouble in front of the mall, which is like more public zone and so on, right? Not within these buildings, no major trouble that I hear more around affordable housing areas, right? What happens is that when you bring affordable housing in here, these renters are going to leave, the ones who live here, right? And they will be taken over by a different group of renters. It happens. I hope it doesn't happen if it goes through.
Rakib, I hear your point.
No,
do you want to say something different?
Yes. The last point I will make is somebody brought up in the beginning of the meeting, which I really liked, that there are healthcare workers. There are people who got us through the pandemic who cannot afford to rent in the city. That is not nice. That I agree with. Now, if this affordable housing site was restricted, that this would be given only to professionals, right, who cannot compete in the market, somebody who makes $55,000, yes, it's quite difficult to to compete in the rental market in Toronto right now. That is true. I agree. I feel for these people, right? But it won't be like that. Once it goes to affordable housing, it's not just healthcare workers. Anybody would be able to apply who fall into that scenario, right? And the craft of the people living around here would change. If you told me that in the beginning of this program that healthcare workers, construction workers, professionals, only them, they would be able to rent here.
No.
Okay.
It's based on
That's
income.
We have a lot of people waiting here. Like you should limit for a speaker, okay? Because someone keeps on speaking, then others will not have to say, okay? Please.
Thank you. And Rakib, we got your point. And Annalie, do you want to quickly address it before we move on?
Let's meet.
Good, thank you. Okay, I have Melissa, Corey, and Amik. Melissa, and to be fair, I know we have about 40 minutes left, so if you could keep your comment under 2 minutes, I'd really appreciate that. That includes the answers from the team as well. Melissa.
Hi there, this is Melissa here. I just wanted to thank you as well for the opportunity to, have the chance to talk on this. And I just wanted to let you know that for myself, I've been in this, I've lived in Scarborough my whole life, but I live on Town Centre Court, number 61. I've been there the last 6 years, and I'm a single mom with a teenage daughter now. And for us, we just feel very safe as it is currently. So there is the concern about adding so many units because when we saw the pictures at the very beginning, it didn't really fully show all of the buildings. There's about 12 of them in the area of these tall kind of condo building towers. And that's not even including any of the 3 buildings on Grangeway. And so the thing is, adding so much, so many units, increases the congestion. And I just don't understand, why that would need to be added right there when there's other areas, even on the kind of in the general vicinity, like even by Brimley, 401 or Progress, it's just already so concentrated. And it's if it could just kind of span outwards, it would still give the accessibility to these different facilities, the library and the town center and all the different things like the transit in the city center. So the congestion also brings with it, the concerns of safety as well. And, a lot of people are out walking around, and I'm worried about just, so many more units and kind of what else that will mean.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Kelly, do you want to try to answer that? So why here specifically, and how are you guys thinking about bringing more people, more crowds, more congestion?
Thanks, Yulia. Yes, why here? Well, this site is an underutilized site, and so that was one of the reasons for selection. We're spending over $8 billion on a new subway to Scarborough that will connect it to the rest of the city. And so it's close to transit. It also presents a great opportunity to achieve a number of other city building goals, including the inclusion of a daycare here. And so those are just a few reasons. And previously I had mentioned that, again, this is Scarborough Centre. A center is a place where our official plan directs significant growth, both residential growth and office growth. And it's also a tall building community. And so this site is underutilized. It's zoned city center residential. The use is permitted. And we're trying to ensure that we work with everybody, including all of the people here tonight, to create a very sensitive design and one that respects the existing context.
Okay, thank you. So again, I have a bunch of people with their hands up. The next one is Corey, and then we're going to go to Amik, and after that to Joseph. Okay, Corey, over to you.
Did I say okay? Yeah.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm not sure if you need to mute someone. A little distracting. Thank you so much for holding this meeting today. My name's Rebecca. Corey's my husband. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share our opinions. I do want to begin by expressing my disappointment, though, in this committee and maybe how some of the comments from this meeting. Not only have the concerns from our previous meeting not been addressed, to be honest, the panelists have also been quite dismissive of the concerns presented here today, including the concerns about property value. Yes, there are significant transit plans, but that took 30 years to come about. Scarborough's waited a long time for transit plans, and they won't be ready for several years, including with the decommissioned RT. I do appreciate the city's goals for addressing the housing crisis. I mean, I'm in my early 30s and I barely was able to buy a condo in the city. It was a bit of a miracle. But I do appreciate the city's focus on affordable housing, especially for younger generations. My concern, I have 3 questions though, is again, just back to the concerns that were raised in our previous meeting that don't seem to be addressed. In our previous meeting, we expressed concerns about the height of the buildings. But now the height it's taller. It's taller since our last meeting when was it 10 years ago, there was a study that suggested that this shouldn't be a high-rise building. My next question is about the environmental impact. Was there an environmental impact study of how this will impact the Faubert Woods, as well as the different wildlife and nature around the community, as well as the overall health due to increased pollution? And lastly, you mentioned that Housing Now will operate the building, and I think there was also mention of a 99-year contract. I just want clarification about who is going to own the building. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Rebecca. So 3 questions. One is, how did you work with the previous, the feedback from the previous round? Why is it, for example, the height was brought up as a concern and right now it's actually, the building is taller? The second one is about environmental impact, particularly on wildlife and nature around the site, as well as the overall health due to pollution. And the third one is, who will own the buildings?
I can jump into at least answer the last 2 questions. So in terms of the future ownership of the building, after again we've taken all community feedback and refined the concept and take a final recommendation report to council, this project will be put out to market. It's a competitive market process, and we will evaluate bids submitted by the private sector, and we will select again through that competitive process a future development partner. They will be the owner of this project. They will develop and construct this project moving forward, and they will be the holder of a 99-year land lease. And there's a number of contracts we'll hold with that future development partner to ensure that the city's interests are maintained, again, as part of that market offering process. In terms of your questions with respect to environmental impact, there were a number of technical studies included with our submission, including a tree preservation plan, which assesses all existing vegetation on site and potential impacts of that. We've also conducted geotechnical drilling, as well as phase 1 and phase 2 environmental reports, which actually look at soil quality. So all those reports are or will be available on the project website. So I would encourage you to take a look. It's createto.ca/158 Borough if you want to take a look at those reports. The phase 1 and phase 2 ESAs they're currently in process, and they will be posted once we have that information available.
Okay.
And Kevin, one of our commenters, Kevin, at the beginning had a great series of questions about sustainability and resiliency. And I think, Nima, if you don't mind, Michael and Wang Ying would be great to provide some detail on how the proposed zoning is addressing opportunities for green buildings here.
I just want to say thank you for addressing my questions. I would also like to express a concern with this building being owned by a private developer. It seems to me that the interest for adding additional floors despite community concerns is in the interest of the developer and not the other owners or residents of this community. So I'm hoping that we could speak a little bit more again to why the building is taller than after our meeting.
Yeah, to that point, again, I think it would be useful for Michael perhaps and Wang as well, our landscape architect, to discuss some of the design strategies. to ensure that this remains a comfortable living environment for everybody. With respect to, again, we have to consider a number of things, including policy directives and overall project viability. So in terms of the feedback we receive from community members, we have to balance that against a number of different interests, including project viability. And all those, again, are submitted to city staff. They will evaluate the submission and they will prepare a final recommendation report to council, and council will ultimately decide on this proposal moving forward. But with that, I will turn it over to Michael and Waying, if you could speak to some of, again, the design strategies to make sure this proposal remains comfortable for
Sure. Perhaps I can start, Michael, and then maybe you can fill in. Hi, everyone. I'm Waying Giorgio from the Planning Partnership with the landscape architects on this design team. To the question of some of the strategies that we're proposing for the landscape. So where we have today a completely paved parking lot, with the redevelopment of the site, we're actually introducing more green space, more landscaping, more trees, more shrubs, more soft surfaces to absorb some of the, the stormwater that does fall on the site. If you've had a chance to look at the plan that was presented earlier, you will notice too that there's some key things that have been implemented through this proposed concept. One being a much enhanced pedestrian connection that takes you all the way from Borough Drive up to Albert Campbell Square. So that's an accessible, gently sloping, beautifully landscaped garden-like space that becomes a really nice promenade to get from south to north. The other two things that I think that are very noteworthy, someone mentioned earlier in a comment about appreciating the fact that Borough Drive in the ultimate scenario will be reimagined as less of a vehicular scaled and vehicular feeling street to a more of a pedestrian street with the introduction of the multi-use path within the right-of-way and the reimagining of that adjacent streetscape that will include, for instance, a tree boulevard, creating this alley for the pedestrians, benches and site furniture, places to sit along their raised planters where we'll have shrubs, lower ground plantings, understory plantings, mid-level plantings, as well as these larger canopy trees that really do contribute to the overall canopy cover targets that the city has established for the city as a whole and for the area. And then lastly, Michael had mentioned earlier about the idea of a woon earth along the north side of the development. And so where we, typically or in the past, these types of areas as connections across sites where the loading and some of the drop-off occurs, it'll be designed as a pedestrian priority space where the idea of loading and servicing will be balanced, or so the function of it will be balanced with the idea that it is actually a space for pedestrians to access the site and cross over all the way to the civic center. But it's also this very informal outdoor play space or public space where we imagine kids will have the opportunity to play, street hockey, throw a basketball, throw a frisbee around. So it's a real community space that is new and being introduced to the area with in combination with the development. So there's a whole range of different uses and different outdoor spaces and hierarchy spaces that are now introduced that are green to the site that don't exist there today. And I'll leave it at that, Michael, if you wanted to chime in.
Well, that's a good answer, and I don't want to take too long, but I can add a few more points. One of them is that by virtue of this, of intensifying an area that's next to a transit node, by definition, it's contributing to reduction in pollution. By encouraging more active transportation, it's contributing to a reduction in pollution. So overall, the starting point of a project such as this is actually to participate in the long range in pollution reduction. In terms of environmental impact, the other aspect of it is that all city commission projects need to meet a higher standard of sustainability in terms of its window to wall ratio, insulation, opportunity for thermally broken balconies, better use of available energy and exploring the ways in which to meet zero carbon buildings. So all these things are part of City of Toronto projects. So that too, this project is one of the 17 which will be advancing those issues in the citywide area, but also on this site. And maybe I'll leave it at that because you've answered the other questions so well.
Great. And I think there's just one question left, which was question number 1. How do you guys make the decisions? You know, like at the first round of consultation, for example, the concern about the height was raised, but we see it actually went the other direction. So Annalie, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, sure. And we absolutely heard that people thought the building was too tall. We also heard people say that the city should do more with its land to support affordable housing or housing in general. So just to note, the building to the north is 39 stories. This building, the taller of the two buildings, is proposed at only 3 stories taller than that. And as Michael mentioned in his presentation, the separation distances are larger than the city's minimum requirements, maintaining views around the buildings to and fro. So that's it for me.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. I have Amik, and then Joseph, and then Jen, and then Jamal. Amik.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks a lot for giving us this opportunity to discuss our responses. So I had a couple of questions. First is, when does the city anticipate construction to begin on this project? Because I saw the timeline, but I didn't see when the actual construction is anticipated. And the second point was, now over the discussions, it seems like the main reason for this project is due to the connectivity and the transit connectivity, right? That is a big point as far as transportation congestion is concerned, and even the whole reason behind this project. So given that, do you think this project should be delayed till after the Scarborough subway extension comes here? Because the way I see it, we won't have any transit for the next 7 years after 2023.
Okay, thank you, Amik. So 2 questions. So the first one, probably Nima, over to you. What are some of the construction timelines? When will it start? When will it end?
Yeah, thanks so much for that question, Amik. It's a great one. At this time, we're anticipating to wrap up the zoning process hopefully by end of this year, after which we will launch the market offering process and get a development partner on board. The development partner will need to take the reference concept through a detailed site plan exercise. So that will likely take through 2022 and 2023 into 2023. At this time, we're anticipating construction to start in 2024 with an approximate 2 to 3 year construction window. So we're looking at 2026 to 2027 in terms of first occupancy for the project. So that's kind of the general timeline that we're working with. But obviously, we have to go through a number of hurdles to get there, but that's our early thoughts, at least.
Okay, and the second question, I think it's Kelly, over to you, maybe Annalie, and how do you factor in the fact that you know, the work is happening for the Scarborough extension line, and after 2023 there will actually be less transit?
And that's, you know, that's a really good point. And obviously the alternative where buses will replace the LRT in a short period before the subway comes is not optimal for residents of Scarborough, but we know that there's an urgent need for housing now, and we are here with housing now. So the goal is that, you know, within a number of years after the building is constructed, that people will be able to avail themselves of the housing, but there will be transit alternatives in the meantime. So we are dealing with the fact that there's an urgent need for affordable housing, which is what we're trying to advance.
Great, thank you. So I have Joseph, and then Jen and Jamal. Joseph, over to you. Joseph Chen?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, there we are. Okay. There are 2 of us here, and we're residents in the Monarch buildings. And we join other residents and neighbors and saying that we don't particularly approve of this project, issues like density and height. And we have 2 questions. We'll keep it short. One is about the distancing. And I get back to what Mr. Leckman said about distancing, and he was referring to the 25 meters. And I would read something out of the Toronto Design Guidelines. It says, where the existing context is characterized by tower separation distances greater than 25 meters, provide tower setbacks and separation distances in keeping with the more generous spacing established by the context. And the context here is towers which are fairly freestanding. They are not close together. So I don't see how referring to that minimum 25 meters in any way takes the context into consideration. That would be the one thing. And the second question, I will pass it on to Joseph so that he can ask that.
Great.
Okay, dear Joseph, and my second question is, according to the deputy mayor and Mr. Thompson mentioned, you know, when he was a city council, and he knew that was a project, you know, about the condo, I mean, housing property development in this area. But when we first purchased this unit at the beginning, like 2008, right? We were told, right, this building, I mean, the parking lot, yes, they will become a new development property sooner or later, but you won't be able to higher than 6 levels, not higher than the city hall. That's I was told when we decided to buy the unit here. And why now, you know, the city bylaw, you guys already, seems like already passed, right? Hopefully not, but seems like, you know, you changed the bylaw. So for the residents here, if we are not agree with, what's the past we can go through to against this project?
Okay, good. So if I understand correctly, so Joseph, your question is, at some point you were promised that the building at the parking lot will not be higher than 6 stories. And so now this is not happening. We can talk a little bit about where we are in the process for the application to change the zone, to create the amendment. And then what is the alternative way for you to depute against what is happening, what you are seeing right now, correct? And the first question, and you guys correct me if I missed something, and the first question is, given that the buildings are actually, the existing condos are pretty freestanding, why do you go with the minimum, if you are, in terms of the separations, and not create more generous, won't allow more generous space for setbacks? So let's start with the question about the 6th level and the alternative path to go to depute, or maybe the path to depute against this. Annalie, do you want to speak to that? What can Joseph do and his friend?
Well, I can't speak to who mentioned the 6-story height limit, but what I can say is that, you know, we're seeking feedback on the design at this stage. We're hearing a lot about other kinds of concerns. But aside from that, as Deputy Mayor Thompson and I mentioned, you do have the right to present at the Planning and Housing Committee when this project is in front of the Planning and Housing Committee. And as a neighboring property, you will be informed of that. And I have sat at many of those committees where members of the public and neighbors speak up about their concerns about buildings. So I know it does happen, and you're welcome to do so. Well, and the other question was about the separation distances. I know I'm on a roll, so I'll just keep mentioning. Right now, as one of the slides that Michael Leckman prepared showed, the distance between the 2 buildings on the site is 39 meters, just over 39 meters. The Monarch buildings just north of the site there's only a distance across the street from the buildings on the east and west side of Town Center Court of 27.5 meters. So that's actually tighter than the buildings on our site, their separation between each other, and the distance between the buildings on the site we're talking about today and the Monarch buildings to the north range between 27.2 and 44.8 meters. And one of the main reasons for that is that the east building of the Monarch building is really close to the property line. So it presents a real constraint in terms of getting the maximum space we can, but we're still exceeding the city's minimums.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joseph, for your questions. We're gonna move on to Jen, Jamal, and then Metian. So Jen, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for holding this meeting. I just have two questions. One's a very simple one. We noticed that my husband's sitting next to me, that's why I keep saying we. We noticed that there's 50% affordable rental, but what is the other half? Maybe we missed it. The slides sometimes go really fast and there's a lot of information. The second one is echoing a little bit about the transit concerns. We were present in the last meeting and we did raise concerns about transit and the vehicular traffic and just overall increasing density, but not addressing how people travel. And as another speaker just mentioned, the RT is going to be gone in 2023. I just want to give a little bit of a bit more context about probably some of our concerns. Like, I've been living in Scarborough for over 30 years. When my parents bought a house in this area, which since it's now gone, they were told this is a great area to buy in because there's going to build a subway soon. They're going to build a subway soon 30 years ago. And so to hear this proposal where we had raised concerns about like movement of people, right? And I work in the West End, so I commute a lot. And to hear that the answer to that would be this future billions of dollars transit development, when really historically Scarborough has been promised transit for decades and is never materialized. And so it makes me really concerned, because if all we have done to address these concerns is build another entry for the daycare and hire somebody to say it's okay, the roads are fine, even though there's another potential condo development down the road on Brimley, okay, so we're adding further traffic, and the RT is going down in 2023. But this subway that's supposed to be built won't materialize until decades later. I don't feel very confident that our concerns about how people are going to be moving is properly addressed, especially when we're also, the answer that's being given is, well, we're only going to address housing. We're not going to address transit. But the reality is that the people who are living here, including the people who will live in that project that's being built, they will also rely on these transit to move from place to place. And many times people in Scarborough, as we can see in the pandemic, move from the East End to the West End in various places to go to their jobs and other essential services. And I feel I'm a bit concerned that I understand the need for affordable housing, but surely the people who also need affordable housing should have affordable and accessible transit as well. And if there's no guarantee that this subway is going to be built, why are we then tying this project's answer to transit with a subway development that may or may not happen?
Great. Thank you so much, Jen. We hear your concern loud and clear, and I know one of the speakers before has also brought up a question: what are you going to do when the subway line extension is going to stop operating, which is past 2023, as you've mentioned? So we hear if you want affordable housing, you also need transit. And we know that Scarborough has been one of those areas that's been continuously promised the subway, and it's very, very political. So we know many discussions have been happening. But very simple question. 50% is affordable ownership, affordable rental. What is the rest, Nima?
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. They're both great. In terms of what's being proposed, we are targeting 50% affordable rental. The balance of the project would be a market rental. So the entire project is essentially a purpose-built rental development that will be managed again by a partner that we select through a competitive process. With respect to, I guess, your second question, if I can just start off, again, I think it's a very fair point. What I can advise is, I understand that Infrastructure Ontario and Metrolinx, which are the owners of the Scarborough Extension project, they actually have entered into the tunneling contract, and they actually do have a contractor in place that's commenced the tunneling work. So I don't know if that gives you any sort of reassurance in terms of the actual delivery, but I do know that that particular contract has been secured. And I can't speak for Metrolinx or IO, but that's just something I have heard in the news.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to answer that point. At one point, they actually dug the hole for the subway, and then the politics changed and they filled the hole back up. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a crazy person, but this is historically what Scarborough residents have been watching, which is they dig a hole and then they just fill it back up. And I think that what we're looking for is a little bit more than a promise. Why would we not tie then this project to a more concrete development into transit? But thank you for the answer. I don't want to be argumentative, but it's genuinely a concern that we have.
Thank you, Jen. And we will take it as a point of advice and include it in a meeting summary, because as we've seen from today, it's a tool that communities can use as well, and we can redirect these comments where appropriate. So thanks so much for this. Jamal, and then I have Methian, and then Arunava. Jamal, over to you.
Hi, thanks for taking my comment and question. So I just have one quick comment. There was a plan before the subway, which was to build the 3 LRT lines, Shepherd East, the Scarborough East RT line, and the Eglinton East LRT line. And part of the reason I was supportive of that plan was that it opened up much more land for development for affordable housing, so that the housing could be spread out over a greater area of Scarborough and the buildings didn't have to be as high. People in Scarborough decided that they wanted a 3-stop subway, and that's fine. But as a consequence of that, the buildings have to be built in a much smaller area, and therefore they have to be built much higher. That's just reality. And to pretend that this isn't the case now, I think is just, it's a bit, I don't know the word, but it's a bit ridiculous, to be honest. Like, I don't know a better word, but we made this decision, and now everyone's complaining that the housing has to be put next to them. Well, where did you think it was going to go if you got rid of all the other RT spaces? The second point I'd like to bring up is, I get that people have the right to come to these events and like voice their opposition or their concerns. That's totally your right. But I don't really see the comments as being reflective of the people of Scarborough. Like, 1 in 4 people in this community live in poverty. 1 in 4 kids, sorry. 1 in 6 people live in poverty. 16% of families are headed by single parents. And that was before the pandemic. So I'm assuming things have only gotten worse now. So I'd like to know, like, what efforts are being taken to make sure that these groups, or that there's at least some consultation with people that actually need the housing, that don't live in this particular building, and that aren't opposed to it. It's a bit unfair to say the people in this building get to decide what gets built in downtown Scarborough, which was sold as something that was being sold for the entire community. I mean, it's not the city's job to protect every last ounce of equity you build up in your house. It's the city's job to provide affordable housing to people who need it.
Great. Thank you for your question, Jamal, and for your observation that you shared with us. So I guess the question is how do you reach beyond those who live within the 300 meters of the site who receive the flyers to participate in this process? I know, well, maybe, and I can speak to the process a little bit, and then Annalie and Nima, you can maybe jump and if you want to add anything. Like, I know that beyond the flyers that were sent within the 300 meters of the site, both CreateTO and City of Toronto are using their social media channels to promote the event. I know that the website is public, and there are also notices right on the site as well that there will be public consultation with information and the website to go onto. I know that, you know, in our effort to include as many people as we can within this project, we did offer hard copy. Like, there's a project phone line that you can call that's available on the website, to which we can also, you know, send a hard copy of the project materials and the worksheet to collect it via mail as well for those who are not able to participate online. I mean, that being said, I totally take your point as a piece of advice that we will write down, that it is important that it's not just the people within the immediate vicinity that gets to participate, and there needs to be a wider Scarborough participation to be representative of the voices of Scarborough residents. And I don't know, Annalie, Nima, would you like to add anything to that?
Just that we are aware that there's citywide interest and concern and about this project. So we do also have other ways of communicating with people who've signed up for information on all of our Housing Now sites. And if, we can continue to think about more ways of reaching out about Housing Now other than the channels we use already. It's always good to reach more people.
And if you have any advice for us right now, how to reach wider audience, we'll be happy to take it, Jamal.
Well, one piece, sorry, go.
No, go ahead, Jamal.
One piece of advice I would have is just to have a meeting like this, but just for people who actually need housing. That's nurses, that's teachers, that's, people working in bars, restaurants, whatever. And you can partner with several community groups like Scarborough Civic Action Network, Housing Now, Scarborough Transit Action, etc., that have lists of people who are looking for housing, 42 Voices, Taibu Community Health Center, that have deep reaches into communities that you might not otherwise be able to reach on your own.
Great, thank you so much. We take it in stride, that piece of advice. Thank you, Jamal. Okay, we have 5 minutes, and we have Metian and Arunava, and we have a whole bunch of others who might not be able to get a chance to share their opinions. Again, that being said, please send them in writing to us. They will be part of the public record. Okay, Metian.
Yeah, hi, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to bring up something. I know that lots of people, they talk about the poverty. Yeah, I know that when I came to Canada, I didn't have anything. It's Canada's land of opportunity. I went to the university, and if I finished my degree, while I was going to the university, I did the 2 jobs. I slept for like 3 hours. I came from there, right? So it's saying in Canada, please don't say that, oh, I am living in the poverty, I don't have anything to do. Don't say that, please. You are disrespecting the Canadian. Canada is the land of opportunity. Please grow up. I work really hard. I came from there. When I came here, I didn't have anything. I just went to school. I started, and then I worked, and then after finishing my 10 years, took me to serve all the money to where I am right now. So please do something, and then don't say like, oh, please help us, please help. What we are doing right now is at City of Toronto. We are saying like, you don't need to work. Whatever you have, please satisfy with that one, and then we are giving you affordable housing. So we are not letting the people to grow, and we are not letting them to do something. It's like someone running on the track, 10 people running. You are saying that it's okay. All 10 people, you take your time. We will give you first prize for all of you. No, you have to encourage them to go first. So that's why, like the affordable housing, what you're doing is like, you are saying like, no, it's okay. You guys do whatever you can earn. We will give you a house to live. That's what you are saying to do is like, you are making the people to more lazier now these days. And then it's going to concentrate them to go into somewhere else. And the next one is I want to say like, okay, did you guys do the study on the crime rate? Wherever we have a community housing, right? The affordable housing, what is the crime rate over there before and after we are getting the housing? Same thing in the Scarborough Town Center, you are bringing the heart of the Scarborough Town Center. So did you do the crime study over there saying that, okay, what is the crime rate right now in the crime around the Scarborough Town Center area? After we get the community housing, is that going to stay like that, or it's going to go up? If it go up, what are you going to do after that? You are going to bring the lots of things. Oh, we have to do this one, and then we have to do this one to fix that one. So you are going to, what are you going to do about that one? So did you guys take a look at all those things, right?
Okay, so 2 questions, Mathian. The last one, let's start with the last one. Have you looked at crime rates or did any kind of study that looks at crime rates before and after the Housing Now initiatives or similar initiatives elsewhere? And the first comment is, I guess, could you explain what is the thinking behind why affordable housing is actually supportive as opposed to vice versa? And about the question about the crime, who wants to take it? Who's in the best position to take it?
Yulia, may I just suggest that we're here today to talk about a development concept, and we have a couple of minutes left, and I would love to hear some feedback on the design of the concept. I think the participant is trying to relate people who need affordable housing, who are serving our communities with an increase in crime. I'm not actually prepared to discuss that right now. What I would love to know is how we can take feedback and make a contribution to the look and feel of this development. I'm desperately seeking some information on that because we really need that to shape and respond to community feedback. We've heard a couple of points about height, about green energy, about sustainability, about cycling infrastructure, about how to deal with congestion coming out of the project. But if we can maybe just move on to maybe someone who's ready to talk about the proposal, I would really be interested in that. And I know that's not my place, but we have a couple minutes left and lots of people who might have that.
So, Ms. Yan, it sounds like we need to take some time to think about your questions and provide the answers after the meeting. So we'll do that in a summary. But you know, your points about the crime rates and the studies about the crime rates, and also like explaining why affordable housing is actually supportive is taken. So we'll come back to you on that. Okay, and I have Arunava, you're next.
Thank you, Yula, and everyone for giving opportunity to speak. I first really appreciate and thanks to the city to come up with this program. I am living in this area, this town center core area for the last 8 years, and I fought a lot. I reached to all of the public representatives and I asked during when they came for the elections and say, what you guys are doing? You guys are getting immigrations and there's a less affordable housing. I have to go to Mississauga every day, 2 hours down the line and again come back 4 hours. I am losing on the transport. Okay. My daughter has been born and brought up over here. She has every right to go to the same public school and teach with her friends. Okay. From the friends that she is from like junior KG. Then the one person has told her, why shouldn't they go to the Whitby? Why? Why my kids, the Canadian kids, doesn't she or he have the rights to go to the same school? Okay. Now I'll also my request or my advice, there is another space between the Service Canada and the YMCA parking spot. If city after this one, city can think of another affordable housing on that area also, because any parking can go underground. Here people first you have to stay, then you can think of your parking. Okay. So that is the very first point. And really, I appreciate that cities this effort. Okay. Now, I have seen that most of the people who are against this project, they are mainly the owners. And I appreciate that cities' interest is not to protect the equity that the owners have built up. Rather, cities' responsibility is to provide the affordable housing first to the Canadians, to the immigrants, to the taxpayers. Okay, because now you have purchased your unit in this like gambling or the bidding war with a 200K plus asking on the listing price. This is your problem. Okay, this is nothing related to do with the lower income group. They have the rights to live right in front of the city. If you send a lower income group retired person back to the Whitby, you think about those old ages guys, how do they survive? Whether if they can stay over here, they have everything in like just two minutes walk away. So they can live better over here. Most of the people are old aged like 70 plus, they even have a hard time to drive. Probably their kids maybe working in some different provinces, some different cities. So
God. Okay, what are you asking? Fuck.
So this is the behavior you see, right?
I'm sorry.
What is kind of things going on?
I was asked to stay down and then go to the next person to get some building development information, but I'm not seeing anything that's coming from the next person. So
sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah, sorry.
I apologize for that. That was uncalled for. My apologies. I was trying to speed things up. My fault.
Okay, Arunava.
Please.
Thank you. Do you want to wrap up your points real quick?
Oh yeah. So again, I am really like thankful to this project. Also, just one question I have mainly. So when you have like bring up this like I think 600 plus units. So what is your plan for the public school? Because there is only one public school, which is St. Andrews Public School. So, and I don't think that school will have the capability to accommodate all the kids maybe coming over here. I know there is another one down the line, the Brimley, but that is mainly for the French ones. but
Okay.
I'm talking about the public school. I know you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arinava, for your question and for your comments. What is the plan for public school? Kelly.
Thanks for your comment. As part of the application process, we do circulate to all of the school boards, and they get back to me on whether or not there is room in their current facilities within the local community. I believe that the Catholic School Board has room currently. The Toronto District School Board has indicated that they would reassess things closer to construction time, but right now there's limited capacity. And so when any of the units are offered, every person that wants to live there will be advised that there may or may not be room in the local facility. But all of the school boards make their best efforts to accommodate students living locally. In addition, when all of the school boards are notified of these developments, they actually have a long-term forecasting so that they can build that into any capital programs and new schools being built in the local area.
I'm sorry, Rakib, I think the background noise is coming from you. If you could mute yourself, that'd be great. Thank you.
And there will be future schools built in Scarborough Centre as it continues to grow over the years. There's one identified for 705 Progress.
Correct. And I guess that is both for elementary as well as the high school, correct?
I don't believe the Toronto District School Board has made that determination yet, but it is in their capital project and they are joint owners with the city on those lands, and it is earmarked for a school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much. I know we're a little over the time, and it was great. And I know there are still a few hands that have raised up, and I'm very sorry we couldn't get to you, but do send your comments in. Again, it is my job and my colleagues' jobs, my colleague Matthew's job to write down all the comments and make sure they're part of the public record. Send us your questions and suggestions and advice if you have them for the team. And just to very quickly to close off, Deputy Mayor, would you like to say a few words?
And thank you to everyone who've come out to voice their concerns. It seems to me that we're not ready for prime time yet with respect to 158 Borough Drive in terms of moving forward. Seems to me that we have a lot more work to do. There's a lot of concerns. Some of it concerns that are basically as a result of not enough information. Some of it are just general concerns, about whether or not the values of real estate will decline and so on. Well, maybe what we need to do, we need to maybe do a study to provide that information. An independent party could do that to help the residents with respect to understanding the overall issues around height and transit and a variety of concerns. I think it's fair to say that the residents who live in this area should be able to voice their concerns, and they shouldn't have to worry about whether or not people from Etobicoke or other areas in the city would want to come in to offer their voices as to what happens here. I think it's really important to understand that as we build, and in particular in Scarborough Centre, there's a lot of development that's taking place. There are a number of other purpose-built rental that are taking place. Oxford Property has come forward with 3. There's another development with respect to condos that are proposed at Brimley and Progress. So there's a lot of things that's going on. I really think, though, that the city really needs to take a bit of a pause as we address the concerns that have been raised tonight. We have, Yulia, you've indicated that we've not been able to get to everyone. And so my proposal to create in the city is to develop a working group of residents in the area who can actually provide their input. We've also seen other, Housing Now projects. 2444 Eglinton Avenue is one in the area that's also in my ward. I've made that proposal. We've also incorporated groups that are not from the community to be part of that particular process, because those groups actually take a broad interest from others who have an interest in terms of seeing development being proposed in the city. So I guess my question, I do have a couple of questions as we move forward. For example, we have the beautiful Civic Center, which is a heritage in my view, and it's a masterful piece of architecture in the city. People are concerned about the views and what the impact of this particular development will have. It would be the same thing whether or not it was a condo or a Housing Now site, right? That's a concern that people have. That's a valid concern. I think we need to provide those types of answers for people and so on. So I guess I'd like to understand going forward in terms of developing the working groups, the residents can actually come forward and offer their concerns or questions and so on, as we know that there's been a number of questions here been asked that have not been responded to. Even the issue with respect to the height. I mean, the response was, well, it's policy directive, it's a project viability. Well, the question is, what about the community's viability? What about the community's interests and so on? I think those will have to be answered, but I don't think we answer them in a boisterous way, in a way that's disrespectful. I think we need to, as a community, come together with both CreateTO and the city staff and work through the working group process to be able to identify some of the issues and to come back with some answers and so on. So I don't believe that we're ready for prime time yet, and I hope that we can actually get to a point where we can bring people in the community together in order to formulate their concerns and bring forward some questions, address their questions, and to be able to come up with some solutions and some ideas. So I'm looking forward to the next steps on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And Nima, Annalie.
Yeah, thanks so much, Deputy Mayor. And yeah, to your point, we do commit to a working group process. So as mentioned, an email will be distributed to all participants who registered by email. And we will look forward to working with you through that working group process.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Annalie, good? All right. Thank you so much. We will not keep you any longer.
May I ask a quick question? How to communicate with Michael Thompson's office?
How do you communicate with Michael Thompson's office?
You're telling me you don't know how to communicate with my office? Are you kidding me? Well, I'll tell you. You can write emails to me at councillor_Thompson@toronto.ca. You can call my office at 416-397-9274. Invite me over. I'll come over and see you. I mean, I'm around. I'm not that far away.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. And on that, we'll finish the meeting. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.